Welcome, everyone. I am the Dad Man, and today we are having a conversation with a good friend of mine. This is going to be the first official episode of the Dad Cave podcast. Um, we did an episode a while back with my friend Roberto. Shout out to him, reviewing Claire Obscure Expedition 33. But this is kind of more of like what I want this podcast to be. So we're going to officially launch this as the first episode. Right now, the plan is to do these monthly and to have different guests, maybe some reoccurring guests, of course. But it's very bare bones right now. But I definitely wanted to get this episode recorded because it's a topic that I think is near and dear to both of our hearts. And I think it's a topic that a lot of people don't really talk about. But before we get into today's conversation, I wanted to introduce our guest. We have the BatmanDrew. Take it away. Tell us where we can find you and what you got cooking so far.
Yeah, man. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
Episode number one, I'm truly honored. And this is fun because I get to do all the fun part. I have to do all the work afterwards to edit and get all this put together. So I'm enjoying this. So you can find me on all social media platforms at the BatmanDrew, primarily on YouTube and TikTok, where I put a majority of my content out. And yeah, just give me a follow. Let me know that you saw me here on the Dad Man's channel. I'd love to be able to keep the conversation going.
Awesome, man. Well, again, thank you for coming on, and we've had a lot of conversations. We've had a lot of banter. We've had a lot of formal conversations. We've done a few of your podcasts, of course, and obviously our friendship came from social media and Magic the Gathering at first, but it kind of has blossomed into this much bigger thing. And I think at the core of it is basically our love for gaming and
Yeah.
what that brings to us as individuals. So that's what today's topic is going to be. Really, it's going to be about gaming and what it means to us as fathers, as husbands, as grown men, essentially. There were a couple of key topics I wanted to talk about and just kind of get your perspective on things and see like where you sat with it and like what it meant for you. So I'm just kind of looking through my notes here, and the thing I wanted to talk about really is, as a dad, as a husband, how do you find the balance between your everyday duties as a provider, as a father, as a husband, as a partner, and how do you still make time for those things that you enjoy that might not seem to be very important to a lot of people, but for you, it's something important. It's something that helps you decompress. It's something that helps you alleviate stress and kind of escape a little bit from the stresses of the real world. How do you find that balance? And do you ever, or have you ever come across a situation where you feel like maybe you're getting a little too old for games and gaming in general?
Yeah, man. No, when I saw your notes, I thought this topic was really good, and this question, man, I put a lot of thought into it, and um, you know, for me, it was I reached a point in my life about 2-ish years ago where I realized that because I have a lot of hobbies, man. I do photography, videography, video games. Wanting to be able to spend time being a dad, a husband. Um, I mean, drawing, art, all that kind of stuff, right? Sports, and I realized that work took up a majority of my time. Obviously, I got to provide for my family. And me and my wife, we have a very traditional kind of household where she's a stay-at-home mom, and I'm the sole provider, right? With all that being said, she works 10 times harder than I do. I appreciate everything she does. But work takes up a vast majority of my time. And I realized every hobby that I had outside of work, man, if I was doing something, photography, for example, it was taking time away from me being a dad. I wasn't going to take my son out to do photo shoots because of the content of photo shoots that I was doing. And although, yeah, I was making extra money and it was a side hustle, the fact is I felt like I was giving up too much time away from my son. So I dropped a lot of things that I enjoyed doing, but that weren't like really key to my happiness, right? I didn't get any kind of real fulfillment out of it. I just was trying to stay busy. And when I started cutting those things out and I really started looking at what I wanted to do, because I do believe that there's a balance for us as dads. Like, we have to be able to be there for our family, raise our kids. But man, like we can only pour out so much before we have to refill our own cup, right? And things like video games, man, it was one of those things that this I would get done with playing even an hour of video games, and I would just feel better. I would feel more refreshed. I would feel rejuvenated. And what was nice about it was, over the last couple of years, I switched jobs, found something that was a little bit less taxing on my mental health. Started investing more into spending more time with my son, finding hobbies that we can enjoy together. Video games ended up being one of those things, and for me, like we still have our separate time, but now him being 5, he'll sit there and he'll watch me. I'm playing Final Fantasy 16 right now. He'll sit there and just watch the gameplay and just be like, what's going on? Like, tell me about the story. And I love those things, right? So it's a shared experience that I'm able to have, but it's still able to, um, get some breaks for myself, if you will, right? And I think the biggest thing is when you're a dad, like that shit's hard. It really is. And I think that sometimes we as men, we put too much stress on ourselves, and I think at the end of the day, when you can do something that can give you a refresh, and be able to recharge your batteries, even if it's something as simplistic as video games, it's so vital and important. Because if you just only give and give and give and you don't take back for yourself, then I think eventually you're going to burn yourself out. I think that's where a lot of dads get in trouble, is that they feel so much responsibility, which we do. We have a huge responsibility as providers, but they feel so much that they feel selfish to take for themselves. And I don't know. I just realized that I needed something, for myself. So video games was it. So for the last year, I've been creating a majority of video game content. I mean, if you see my channel and things that I talk about, and it's been fun. It's been great. Is that the right call, man? I don't know. I didn't have a dad growing up. So all I know is that right now, 5 years into it, my kid's happy. We're enjoying playing video games together. And I'm having a hell of a time being able to do things and meet people like you. So, yeah, I think that's it for me. Now, I will say real quick, not to go long winded, but you had asked also, was there ever a time that I thought to myself, like, this is childish? Should I, quit doing it or whatever? Man, I was very fortunate. I've been with my wife for 15 years now. And I remember one of our very first dates, we were walking around the mall because we were kids, that's what you did. You walked around the mall. And I was walking around the mall. We were in the Disney store, and I saw a Hawk action figure that I wanted. Now, the girlfriend I had before my wife, I was 21 at the time. Scarlett was 18. The girlfriend I had before my wife was in her mid to late 30s. So it was a very drastic difference between what I was with Scarlett versus with her. And there is no way in hell she would have like let me walk out of the Disney store with an action figure. Where Scarlett was like, no, get it for yourself. Like she had no judgment whatsoever. And I've been very fortunate over the last 15 years that I do a lot of nerd shit, and she supports every ounce of it. So I've never thought to myself like, oh, this is kind of childish. Maybe I should quit doing playing video games. And in fact, she encourages me because she knows that it is a good reprieve for me to be able to play video games. It's a little bit harder now to make time for it now that I'm a dad, but yeah, like I've been very blessed to have a supportive wife in that case.
Listen, man, I am so glad that you kind of segued into that, because I think, obviously me and you are having this conversation right now, but for anybody who listens to this, later on, or any guys out there, any people out there just in general who are finding difficulty kind of holding on to their own identity. And I think a lot of the time, that idea of having a supportive partner, it gets swept under the rug a lot, like
Yeah.
relationships are built off assimilation, right? Like the both parties are trying to come together, and they're trying to mesh these personalities into one, coherent unit. And sometimes things get lost along the way. Like sometimes you forget something about yourself, or sometimes you change something about yourself to just kind of, situate yourself easier into that relationship. And it happens on both sides, right? And I used to do that a lot. Like, uh, prior to being with my wife, I used to assimilate into every single one of my relationships, where my personality would become like the other person, because I was always under the impression that like-mindedness is what makes happiness, is what makes success in a relationship. If you're very similar to your partner, you're never going to argue, you're never going to have
Yeah.
any negative situations come up in the relationship, because there's no need for it, because you're the same person. And to an extent, like, it is nice to have a lot of commonality with your partner, but it's also important to not forget who you are and what makes you an individual, right? So that took me a long time to learn. I've been with my wife now for a long time, like 12 years. We've been married for uh, 9 of those 12 years, but I've known her for like 15 years. So I've known my wife for a long time. And one of the greatest things like she ever told me was, it's okay to be you, and it's not okay for you to change who you are fundamentally at your core for anybody. Like, if
Yeah.
you're not enough for anybody, then maybe you don't need to be that person. So I want to shout out those supportive partners that don't try to dim light, and even though it might not be something that's for them, they try to understand that it doesn't have to be, right? Like, it doesn't have to
Yeah.
be like, my wife does not play video games, and that's fine. Like, I don't try to encroach that into her life or whatever, and she doesn't take that away from me or whatnot, because those are the things that we do as individuals. And I think that's important, right? I think it's important to, even though it can be super hard at times to make the selfish decision and put yourself first, it is sometimes necessary. Now, I know there's a lot of grade lines with that, like when you're married and when you have kids, like, when is it okay to put yourself before your partner or before your kids? And a lot of people will tell you, oh, it's never okay to do that. And to a certain extent, yeah, like, as a husband, as a father, like, you want to protect your family and everything like that. But I do believe if you are not happy with yourself as an individual, nobody on this planet is going to make you happy. Uh,
Totally
and
agree.
I and I
Yeah.
don't think it's fair to put that burden on other people. I don't think it's fair to expect your partner or your kids to make you happy, and to uh, that be their sole responsibility. So that's where stuff like hobbies and video games like come into play, right? Like, you need to have that time for yourself. You need to have whatever it is, a couple of hours, a few minutes, just to decompress. And it's hard out there, and I think gaming is, I'm biased because I do it, but it's one of the more innocent things that you could probably do, right? Like, you're home, you're playing a game, maybe talking with some friends online, but you're not out, you're not consuming substances that shouldn't be consumed. You're
Yeah.
not putting yourself in any positions or any situations
That's
that.
what Grand Theft Auto's for. You can live vicariously
Exactly.
through Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, exactly. You
So
do you play GTA, so you don't do it in real life, right? Like,
yeah.
that's my thing is if anybody there, if anybody is like second guessing themselves as to, we mentioned it before, like, should I continue to do this? Should I play games even though I'm an adult? Like, I would say yes, but everything within moderation. Like, if you feel like your gaming or your hobby is taking over your life and it's affecting your relationships or it's affecting your work, then maybe you should take a step back and be like, you know what, I need to put a governor on this. I need to limit how much of it I'm doing, because it's affecting my other relationships that are really important. So I think it's all about balance, right? Anything in life is all about
Yeah.
balance, and if you can find it, then that's where I think that's where you achieve that true happiness, where you could have your cake and eat it too. You could be an awesome
Yeah.
dad, a great husband, but you could still also be a nerd and enjoy podcasting or content creation or video gaming or comic books or trading card games, whatever the case may be. So,
Well,
um,
I think sometimes too, though. Like I think some people when they put a stigma on video game play, like, oh, like that's childish, like you know what, why are you doing that? Why are you wasting your time doing that? Um, it comes from a place of honestly a place of ignorance on their part, right? Because it is no different. My wife's not a gamer either. She's a huge book nerd. Like on the other side of my office here is her library. It's got hundreds of books up there. Um, her reading a book and getting invested in those characters and storyline is no different than me playing a video game and doing the same. And so other people, they escape reality by watching movies or they watch television shows or things like that. It's a form of media, and I think that the people who are, who think lesser of individuals, of grown people who play video games, honestly, I think this comes from a place of stupidity, and it's somewhere along the way, like they were, and I mean this a little bit funny but also serious, like somewhere along the way, like someone hurt them in their upbringing where they don't feel comfortable doing something that brings them joy that they maybe did when they were a child. And yeah, man, like I've been playing video games. I'm 38 years old. I'm playing video games all my life. And I have the kind of side tagline for my channel is living life one campaign at a time.
Right.
And I have been fortunate to live hundreds and hundreds of campaigns. And I believe that honestly has helped me as a grown man trying to make content, doing the things that I enjoy doing, to have an imagination that I can share and be creative and do things like that with my son. Today we had a conversation about all the different types of symbiotes, and he had no idea that there was another type of symbiote other than Venom. And so we started talking about Carnage. We started talking about Null and how, like, where they all came from. And it was just, it was cool, man. It was fun. And I think at the end of the day, like, yeah, you're right. There's a lot of things that we could be doing that are way worse for us and consuming than video games. And so I think if you're a hater on video games, that's fine. No one's going to force you to like them. But to hate on people who love video games, I think is just a little silly.
Yeah, I mean I agree. I mean it does come to it does come down to that, right? Like people usually tend to have fear of or hesitate around things they don't truly understand, right? And like I'm not saying that you have to give it a chance, like you don't, right? If it's not for you,
Yeah,
like you don't have to do it, but like you don't have to take a piss in anybody's Cheerios, right? Like you don't have to go and
yeah,
ruin someone's, what they find happiness with just because it's not your cup of tea, right? So I mean I think everything's a learning curve, right? I mean I was very judgmental younger in my life, and I used to judge people all the time, like, oh, why would you do that, or why are you doing it that way, or there's a much better way of doing things, and that's not really what's important. It's just it's tough because like I kind of analytically understand both sides, right? Like I understand how someone could look at gaming and say, oh, that's a complete waste of time, but I also understand my position in it and saying that they're wrong. So I understand both sides. I just wish that
yeah,
there was more of an understanding as to it's okay for you to have your opinion and it's okay for me to have my opinion, and just let me do what I'm doing over here on my side, and I'm not affecting you at all. So like just don't even bother me, right? Like
yeah,
we
one
should
hundred
just
percent.
everybody should just leave everybody alone and mind your business, and do what makes you happy at this point. Like it is what it is. But yeah, I mean, overall, like gaming, good, right? Like we give our thumbs up for gaming. Speaking of gaming being good, uh, mental health in this country is a very heavy topic of conversation. Like there's a lot of different angles, there's a lot of different approaches, there's a lot of different awareness now with mental health than there was even 10 years ago, right? And we're both men, so men's mental health is definitely something that is near and dear to my heart, but also personally is something that I try to make sure that I'm staying on top of. And as silly as it might sound, the benefit that I get from gaming or partaking in the hobbies that bring me joy is for my mental health, right? There's been times in my life where as a male, as a provider, as somewhat of a perfectionist, you kind of take on more than you can chew, and you
Yeah.
feel like you have the weight of the world on your shoulders. And your biggest fear in life, like my biggest fear in life, is letting my family down, or letting those who rely on me, like letting them down. Like that is my biggest fear in life, is like letting my wife down, letting my kids down. And that's a lot of pressure to put on yourself. It's a lot of unwarranted pressure, because nobody's asking you to put that amount of pressure on yourself. It just
Yeah.
happens, right? So for me, I get a lot of clarity, and I get a lot of reprieve, and where I could just kind of sit down. We're having this conversation right now. My wife is at work. My kids are asleep. They're in bed. So the time that I get to myself to take advantage of what I have going on, either doing this with you or sitting down and playing a game or whatever, like that is like my me time. And I cannot stress enough like how important that is. And as men, I can't speak for women because I'm not a woman, but as men, when it comes to me time, that is one of the first things that we sacrifice. Like it is one of the first thing. Like, okay, you know what? I got to strap my boots up, and I got to do what I got to do, and I got to work and work and work and work, and then come home and provide and all this stuff. And that's the first thing that goes away, is like that me time.
Yeah.
And you mentioned it earlier about it maybe sounding like a selfish thing, but sometimes it's okay to be selfish if it's for the benefit of your mental health, right? So um, the main benefit that I get from it is just to kind of detach myself, so that I don't bring any of the outside stress into my home, and just kind of have a clear mind. But I also enjoy it because I am a creative person. I don't know if you look too much into like horoscopes and signs and all that, but I'm a Pisces. My wife is a Pisces, and Pisces tend to be very outward thinkers, very creative people, very imaginative people. And playing video games helps my brain kind of get those juices going, those creative juices, those imagination juices flowing. If you'd like to speak real quick on what benefits do you feel like you get from gaming, in definitely in recent years, but definitely when you became a husband and when
Yeah.
you became a father.
Yeah, man. So I'm gonna be real here with you on your first episode, right? I'm gonna open up a little bit. So, some of this from past conversations we've had, but when I was 11, my dad passed away, and right before he passed away, PlayStation released Final Fantasy VII, and that game was an escape for me. It was the first Final Fantasy game I've ever played, and it allowed me to be able, because I didn't have a lot of friends growing up, and I grew up in a rough area. My mom certainly wasn't going to let me go hang out with kids that were in the neighborhood, and so it gave me an escape, from everything that was going on. And I just remember playing that game and falling in love with the characters, falling in love with the world, and really just it helped getting me through as a kid, the death of my dad. Fast forward, several years later, and about 3-ish years ago, my mom passed away, and I didn't even think about it, until I was thinking about this topic of your podcast. The first game that I jumped into and played, even though it was a replay at that time, was Final Fantasy VII Remake, and there was something familiar about the calmness and the peace that game gave me, which is weird and ironic considering just how how much torture and turmoil there is in that game,
Yeah.
but it gave me an escape again, and helped me cope. And when I lost my mom, I realized that I was dealing with a lot of regret and things that I wasn't ready to deal with. And to be honest, I started spiraling with my mental health, and caused a lot of issues at home, caused a lot of issues with my wife, and to your point, we're talking about men's mental health and stuff, like we don't want to put our burdens on other people. Like
Yeah.
even now, knowing that I have a safe space to go to with my wife, it is still one of the most difficult things for me to do is tell her when I'm struggling. And the video games have honestly they've helped because for just a moment I can shut my head off and I can play something. And here's the thing: it isn't just an escape. It isn't like I go into Midgar and I enjoy the world, and it's just like, oh, I wish I lived here. When you play video games, most of the time, especially if you're playing RPG games, you are fixing a problem. You're
Yep.
saving the day. You are the hero, and there is something to be said when you're talking about escaping into a video game and ignoring your problems. That can be unhealthy 100% for sure. So there is a balance here, right? But for me, being able to feel accomplished allowed me to be able to go into my real world and feel better about myself and feel more confident about myself. And I think that where that really in that struggle of mental health really comes full circle is if you've played Expedition 33, and when you're dealing with mental health, what is it like to have like escapism versus reality and trying to face your demons or your struggles and stuff like that. And I think there's so many tones in video games that are unappreciated because of how they can help. And when I look at my wife, for example, who I love my wife and I adore my wife. She today's her birthday actually, so
Happy
shout out
birthday.
to Scarlett whenever this is. Happy birthday. um I look at some of the women that I love the most in video games, especially in Final Fantasy, and they are all Renoa is one of my absolute favorite women in all Final Fantasy games. She loved Squall for exactly who he was.
Yeah.
Like she saw more in him than he could see, and loved him for exactly who he was. And yeah, it's nice to be able to have that support. But I think when you don't and you kind of escape into video games to help your mental health, it can be dangerous. Again, I would definitely make sure that you balance it out between the real world and that video game life. But for me, it gives me a sense of accomplishment that really helps me to be able to tackle my own demons. And it just I love it. And looking ahead, being a dad now and watching Grayson, like Minecraft is really his big game that he plays. Watching how creative he is, and realizing that he's going to grow up in a world that I honestly believe this, he's going to be ahead of the curve because of how much he plays video games when it comes to his creativeness and his imagination. It just, to me, it's unreal. And so I will end with this. I was talking to Scarlett about this. We were driving into town the other day, and I told her, I was like, you realize that we're going to be a very radically different generation of grandparent than Grayson's grandparents are now, because like his grandparents are technologically unadvanced. We have to help them log into their email.
Yep.
And where us, like, they don't play video games. They have no interest in them. We play video games. We're into superheroes. We're into Disney, all that kind of stuff. Grayson is into that kind of stuff. And assuming that he has kids and they're into it, he's going to grow up with parents that are going to be like, hey, we're going to take a family trip. We're going to go to Disney World, or we're going to go to, San Diego Comic-Con as a family, or things like that. We're going to have all those nerd experiences as a family, as grandparents. And I think we're just going to be very different than your traditional grandparents that you have. And I think that that's a good thing. And in the world that we live in, where, man, there's so much shit to be negative about right now,
Yeah.
I think that video games is a good way to be able to bring a little bit of joy and happiness. So yeah, I'm a big proponent of video games, especially when it comes to mental health.
Yeah, man, that's it's beautiful what you said, especially about your son and the future. And you're absolutely right. I mean, our generation, the millennial generation, we grew up in the age of technological advancement, right? Like, I was
Yeah.
8 years old when the internet came out, so like I've grown up with the internet. Like AOL dial-up, yeah, it
Yeah.
sucked ass and it was super slow, but like, like we're in the generation now that has the most experience with technology because we grew up with it. Like, even now, like these newer generations are a lot more intelligent and are picking stuff up faster, but it's new to them. Like they're it's new to them. Like people who are in tech fields and in their careers when they get out of college, like that's new to them. Whereas we kind of grew up and we ushered that in. And listen, I am a huge proponent in the advances of technology if they're beneficial to what's going on in the real world. And that could be anything with advances in the medical field, advances in how we do work, advances in our entertainment. I'm not a real big fan with the AI stuff, but that's a conversation for another day. But I'm all for it, right? Because
Yeah.
evolution and advancement is what drives forth progression. And you mentioned it earlier with your son, the younger generation. So I have kids too. I have 4 kids. My 2 boys are I would call them gamers. I mean, they love to play games. Their library is not very vast. It's pretty much just Roblox and Fortnite right now, but they are good with it. Like they understand the mechanics of the game. They understand the lingo. They can have conversations with each other about how to do stuff in the game. And I've dabbled in Fortnite. I've never played Roblox. But I do have an appreciation for what they're doing because they're doing it because they enjoy it and not because I told them to do it, right? Like
Yeah.
I think a lot of the times, like especially maybe like us when we were younger or like our kids, like I feel like sometimes it's very easy for a parent or an adult figure to influence how someone of the younger generation will grow up or tend to like certain things. And I told myself before I started having kids, I would never be that type of parent that's gonna like I mean, yeah, if I ever had the opportunity to live vicariously through my child, sure, I would love to see them succeed in areas that I didn't, but I'm not gonna force that on them, right? Like everything that my
Yeah.
kids do is because we'll put you in soccer or we'll put you in baseball for you to try it out and see if you like it, and then the continuation of that is completely up to you, right? So the fact that they just kind of stumbled upon it and they started playing games, they start asking questions, they start asking questions about games. I love having those conversations with them because it's stuff that I like too, so it's very seamless. But what do you think the benefits for the younger generation? Like you did mention your son Grayson playing Minecraft and his creativity just kind of expressing itself through what he's creating in the game. But do you think that that's overall going to be a benefit in the long run? Or do you think it's going to be something along the lines of it has to be monitored and balanced as well?
Yeah, I think it's going to really depend on the individual and I think what kind of environment they're brought up into, right? When I look at video games, especially what is popular now, it's a lot of online games, it's a lot of things like Fortnite, that kind of stuff. And I think that on one hand, as long as because I'm a big proponent, and I'm sorry if people come at me for this, but I hate the participation trophy type mentality, right? Like
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
I I sweat and bled for everything I earned whenever I played sports, and so I'm a super competitive person. My son already starts that, and one of the things that video games has helped him to do is learn how to lose. Like when we play video games together, he is learning how to lose and how to take that and try to do better. Right. I think that things like Fortnite, for example, probably help with that mentality as well because there's only one winner at the end of the battle royal, right? Like so, and I think that competitive spark is driving individuals to be better, whether it's at video games or whatnot. I think that where I worry about it is, one of the things that I really try to teach my son how to do is to know what's appropriate and what's not appropriate as a man in society and things like that, right? And so, my son, I want him to grow up to know that there's not going to be a thing that I say behind my keyboard and my mouse that I won't say to someone's face, right? Like I'm not if I have shit to talk, I will say shit to you to your face, right? If not, I'm gonna keep my mouth shut. And what I worry about is the amount of empowerment there is behind the controller and behind your computer screen, and not being able to learn how to balance that out with real world, right? So it's easy to smart off to someone when you're on the other end of the microphone and you have no idea who they are and they don't know where you are. But you do that enough, man, I think that you're creating unsafe environments where maybe that person on the other end of the microphone has had enough. And in our today's technology, it's way too easy to find people. It really is on social media. And I think that I think it's a little bit worrisome for me if our advances in technology aren't done responsibly, especially when it comes to video games. All that being said, um, I think that for me, I have very little control over what society does as a whole, but a lot of control about how I raise my son to impact that society he grows up in. And I think that my main priority as a dad is to help him grow up to learn to be kind, to know like we I will tell you this today. So today we were at Walmart, and I hate Walmart. I hate fucking shopping at Walmart. If you want to talk about what's bad for your mental health, me shopping at Walmart is bad for my mental health. But I'm not rich enough to shop at Target, so I still go to Walmart. And when we were walking through, like, people were just jackasses and they were irritating me and they were getting on my nerves. And my son grows up knowing that, and this isn't me trying to be toxic masculinity dude here, but like, my son grows up knowing that I can handle myself, I can take care of myself, and that there's not very many guys that I would come across where I'm going to think that I'm going to lose the end of that fight. But I walk away from it because there's no purpose. It serves no purpose for me to be confrontational in that kind of aspect, right? He's going to grow up seeing me as someone who can protect and not instigate. And I think that for him, because you've seen pictures of my son, he's going to be a massive child. He's already a massive kid. I want him to grow up with a tenderness to him, and a sense of kindness, and because he's going to grow up in a world that is going to be full of hate, because it already is now. And I don't think anything's going to change that unless if each individual person decides to make an impact on that. And all I can do is help my son get there. How does that tie into video games? Because I already see him, like, when we're playing Minecraft together, I don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea. And he at 5 years old is like taking me by the hand and teaching me, right? And things like that. And to me, it just, I'm very proud of the little gamer he is, but even more proud of the fact that, like, he's going to grow up to make a huge impact on other people, because like, we've got to spend that time together and bond, and I've been able to hopefully help him grow and grow up and learn how to be a good kid, and hopefully ultimately a good man. So man, I think that's a long way of saying, with video games, it could go either way. I think it's got to be done responsibly, and we've got to make sure that for every idiot behind the keyboard, who wants to take shots and make fun and feels comfortable hurting other people, even just by words, that we balance that out with someone who I hope is like Grayson, who will combat that with kindness and be the reason why someone else is enjoying their time and not going down a dark road mental health wise, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Uncle Ben said it best, right? With great power comes great responsibility. And I mean, that's what it is, right? The advancements in technology is power. I mean, that is it's something that hasn't been around always. It's technology just keeps advancing, and how you use that technology is a huge responsibility, because you could use it for negativity. You could use it to try and hurt people. you know, you know, we see it all the time, right? We see adults being inappropriate with kids in games, and it's scary because it's unfortunate, but it is the world that we live in. And my kids just started playing Roblox again, and they haven't had it for years. Like, just because I know there's a lot of sick people out there, and I can't protect them in there. Like, I can't.
Yeah.
I'm not, like the physical representation of me protecting them as their father, I'm not there. So it's hard for me to come to terms with, okay, I'm going to let go a little bit, so that my kids could enjoy this thing that they really do like to enjoy, but somebody comes along and tries to ruin it for them, and it's difficult. So I mean, that's what it comes down to, though, is being responsible and being appropriate and intentional with the respect of it. I mean, it sounds like such a minor thing, but you have to respect the level of technology that we have today, because it's so vast and it's essentially limitless, like, especially now
Yeah.
with all this AI stuff that's coming out, even to this day, like, some of the stuff that I see with AI is amazing to me. Like, wow, we can do that now. Like, that's kind of crazy. Like, at work, we use AI for, some of our customer service reps or whatever, like our calling and stuff, and it's kind of crazy. Like, it's a little, like, I've seen Terminator. I've seen a lot of those sci-fi movies where Skynet takes over, and I'm just like, okay, we just got to be super careful here, because all it's gonna take is
That's
this
what. That's why
one.
I always tell Jim and I thank you, man. Like I'm when
Yeah,
because I use AI a lot to be able to kind of work out conversations of content I want to create or things like that. Every fucking time I say please and thank you. And I feel like I'm doing it just try to be polite to an AI, but two, yeah, I just want them to remember me in kindness when when they take over. 100%.
yeah, it's scary, because it's like, dude, I remember watching Terminator 3 came out in 2003, and the whole premise of that movie was that the machines were going to rise up and take over. And at the end of that movie, that's exactly what happens. Like, the computers take over and they start launching nukes everywhere. And then that led into the Salvation, the one with Christian Bale, which I thought was a horrible movie, but I love Christian Bale, so I watched it. And that was back in, like, early 2000s. Like,
Yeah.
like, that could happen tomorrow. Tomorrow you could wake up and be like, "Oh, the AI took over. We're screwed." And you know what? When that happens, for anybody who's listening to this podcast, when a zombie apocalypse happens, or when, like, AI takes over the world, you better make sure that you have a couple of gamer friends, because we've already been through it. Like, we've already been through it. So
100%.
we are
Yep.
ready. Like, we know how to do it. We're ready to go. So that's the
And listen,
moral
we're
of
not talking
that's the
about
lesson
zombie
here.
apocalypse. Forget like zombie because there are different levels of zombie apocalypses, right? Like Walking Dead. I feel like Walking Dead is a very tame kind of version of a zombie apocalypse than what you get for like The Last of Us, right? Or World War Z.
Oh, well,
Like
yeah.
I'm equipped for a Last of Us type apocalypse because I have played that game 17 times in my
Yeah,
life, right?
for
Like
sure,
I
for sure.
100% agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, for me growing up, the big one was Dawn of the Dead. It's actually a Zack Snyder Dawn of the Dead. He remade it.
Yeah.
That level of zombie is crazy. Like, if the zombie can run really fast, everyone's screwed. Like, we're all just screwed, right? Like, if the zombies can actually run, then you're screwed, because they don't stop. Like, there's no exhaustion there. Their body just keeps going, and not everybody in this country is a track star, so you would just eventually be screwed. So yeah, like, if a zombie apocalypse were to happen, I'd want, like, The Walking Dead, like, Night of the Living Dead zombies, like, where they're just kind of like, ugh, and brainless, like, I eat brains type of zombies. I don't want, like, World War Z. I don't want The Last of Us. I don't want Dawn of the Dead. I don't want any of those zombies. So those zombies can go right to hell. but yeah, the gamers would be prepared for stuff like that because we lived it. So the last thing I want to talk about, it might be a little bit of a heavy, it might be a little bit of a heavier topic of conversation. So I think, me personally, right? Like I think like if you were looking a third party perspective, outside looking in, if I were to tell you like my major hobbies, I probably only really have two, and that would be like video games and like card games. Right now it's Magic the Gathering, but I've played card games my whole life. So video games and Magic the Gathering are probably like my two biggest hobbies. I mean, I love baseball, but that's I don't really consider baseball a hobby because I don't really play it anymore. So it's not really a
Yeah.
hobby. Like I'll play with catch with my kids and like try to teach them stuff, and I'll watch baseball like on TV. But like as a hobby where like I'm going out and playing softball and stuff like that, I don't do that anymore. So I don't really like that doesn't take time away from anything else. Because that's more of just like, playing catch with your sons outside or your kids outside, like that's normal dad stuff. And then like watching a baseball game doesn't really take away from anything. So I think my two major hobbies would be gaming, like video games and card games, right? So as an outside perspective looking in, like that would deem as a childish hobby, right? Like when you get a video game, like the target demographic is kids, depending on the game, of
Yeah.
course. But overall, the target demographic is kids. Card games, right? The most popular card game in the world is probably Pokemon. That's straight up geared towards kids, right? So I have
Yeah.
very, quote unquote, childish hobbies. Why do you think, in today's society, people who deem hobbies as childish, like, why do you think that those people have such a problem with it? And do you think it's fair for people to have that stigma that, oh, if he's a gamer or if he plays card games, he's just a man child and doesn't have his shit together?
I think that people, they judge without understanding, and I think that it's easy, and it's easy to be able to look at things like video games or card games or things like that. If it's easy for people to look at all the shit I got behind me and think like, oh man, that's childish. Like you're wasting your money on that stuff. Like why do that? At the end of the day, it makes me happy, right? Like it brings me joy to be able to collect or to do those things. Um, I think that in today's age, it's becoming less and less. I know, like when I was in high school, like I didn't tell anybody I was a superhero fan or a nerd. Like just it wasn't. Um, it wasn't what you did. It wasn't. I played football and basketball. Like you weren't a superhero fan and playing basketball, and stuff like that. So I think it's becoming less of a stigma, and it's becoming more popular and that kind of stuff. But I think all that aside, um, I think that at the end of the day, people who tend to judge one way or the other, whether it's looking at me and saying like, "Why do you play video games so childish? Why do you play?" or whatever. No matter what you're judging on, you're doing it from a place of just being unhappy in yourself and what you're how you feel about yourself and things like that. Like what brings you joy is trying to bring down others, and I think that that's a sad reality of it. But I also think that it because a lot of the comments that I get on my post are 99% positive, and I'm very appreciative of that. But every once in a while, I get a stupid negative one. And I posted a video a few months ago. I walked into a half price books, and I don't read. I've read like 5 books in my life, and one of them was the Bible. So I don't read. And I walked into half price books, and I was looking for a book maybe to start picking up, and I was so confused of the layout. Where do I like? Is it sorted by author? Is it sorted by title? Like it really kind of threw me off, right? So I got out to the car and I made a quick TikTok video, and I just said, "Am I stupid? Like how is this done?" And most of the people were like, no, you're not dumb. It can be confusing. Sometimes, different stores do it differently, blah blah blah, right? But this is kind of how it's set. So a lot of it was laughing it off with me, but also like being helpful. When I posted that same video on YouTube, I got similar comments, but I woke up one morning and I got a comment from someone who basically just said, "Yeah, you're a fucking idiot." Like just cold and like you're dumb. And so I respond to negativity positively. So what I do is I if you made a negative comment, I go to respond to your comment, whether I make a video or whatever, or I write back, and I look for something positive to throw at you. And this individual only had one video on their YouTube, and it was them drawing artwork for a storyboard of a story that they were writing or wanting to tell. And the artwork was pretty good. And I thought it was odd that they only had one video up, but I made a video, replied, and I said, go check out this person's content. I was like, they felt the need to leave a negative comment on my post. That's fine. I want to show some love. Check out their page, check out their YouTube channel, look at this video, amazing artwork. I don't know what you're doing with your art, but keep it up. That's basically the gist of the video. The person wrote back and commented on it like, I didn't, because what they do, and I don't understand this part on YouTube. They posted the video but set it to private so no one else could see it, and it was one that they didn't realize was set to public and that people could view it.
Okay.
And they were so self-conscious about their own work that it freaked them the fuck out that someone was able to see what they did. And so they were like, they told me instantly they deleted their old comment of making fun of me or whatever. They just said that they were scrolling through and they saw it and they wanted to troll. And I just wrote back to him. I said, hey, I get it. I said, I'll take down my video as well, if you don't want people to see your artwork. But just know, like, you're good. Like, you have talent. Like, I see you. Um, Oddly enough, the person subscribed to my channel. And I think that, when it comes to all the negativity that we have in the world, if you can respond to it a little bit positively, I think it goes a long way. So, I honestly, I think it just comes from a place of people being unhappy, and that's sad. I don't want them to be like, I want you to be happy. But if what makes you happy is shitting on the things that other people love, then fuck you. Like that's not happiness. Like that's just you trying to make other people miserable. So um there probably always will be a stigma to it. I think people will always look at it and think that it's childish, or that you need to grow up. But if it makes you happy, life is too short to let people shit on the things you love. So be happy. Like, go enjoy, play video games. Forget them. Block out the noise. Go. Go play the next Expedition 33, because for me, if I had never played video games, I wouldn't have experienced arguably one of the greatest stories ever told. And I think that, yeah, open yourself up to it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you said earlier. I think the stigma on it is a lot less because nerd culture is essentially now like very, very popular and it's in the mainstream. I think it's ironic though that it had to come to that for us to get acceptance. And when I say us, I mean like, the people that earn their stripes, like people who were like had to hide being a nerd because they didn't want to get shoved into a locker. Um,
Yeah.
and it's funny because like similar to you, like I grew up playing sports my entire life. Like I played the three major sports. I played basketball, I played football, I played baseball, and then I didn't play football, and then only played basketball and baseball, and then I had to make a choice, and baseball was my number one. So I did a lot of sports. I never really felt like I fit into the whole jock crowd though. Like I never really considered myself a jock. Um, my best friends growing up in high school, we were all nerds. Like we had arguments at the cafeteria, lunch tables about who was the better superhero, Batman or Spider-Man. Like those were like the type of conversations that we had. And it wasn't like, it wasn't cool to have those we were podcasting at our lunch tables before podcasting was even a thing. Like that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We earned our stripes. Like I never got shoved into a locker though, so like I don't know what that's like. But I did have to deal with some bullies. Just kind of because I was different, or because I was the new kid in school, or because I moved from a not so great neighborhood into like a predominantly white suburb, and there's always like stereotypes and shit that you have to deal with. My biggest thing for me was my parents divorced when I was really young. And I didn't really have like a stable household, I guess. And then my mom started dating my stepdad. I was already maybe like, I think 8 or 9. So like I missed a couple of formative years there. So like my idols and the people that I looked up to growing up were superheroes like Batman, Superman, Spider-Man. Like those were my like male role models. And the male role model shtick in the superhero world is, if you fall down, you get back up, no matter how many times it has to happen. And Captain America, I can do this all day, and that's basically like
Yeah.
what my life is built on. Like I could do this all day. Like I could take a beating. I could people can fling their shit at me, and it doesn't, I just whatever, I wipe it off. But now as a dad or as a husband, it is a little different, um, because you have to, not only stand up for yourself, but stand up for what you believe in. And I believe in a world where it's okay to play video games. It's okay to play card games. It's okay to collect pops and read comics, and it's okay to do stuff like that. And I'm glad that in a way it's more accepted, because it should have been anyway. Like it should have never even been one of those things where, oh, you're a geek or you're a nerd. Like that should have never been a thing, like ever. But I guess now like it's super cool to be a nerd now, and like, like we have our worth, and it's nice. But ultimately what it comes down to, like whether it's gaming or comic books or people who collect stamps and coins, like just the idea of somebody out there shitting on something that somebody else enjoys, like to me, like is just unnecessary. Like there's so much hate in the world right now with the things that are going on, like politically and everything. Like I don't think there should be any room for people making fun of somebody because they like to read My Little Pony comic books. Like
Yeah.
I think that's to me, like somebody might look at me and be like, here's this 35-year-old guy who likes to play video games and play with shiny cardboard. That's childish. I think it's childish that you're judging me for doing something that I like to do that does not affect or harm anybody in any way. Like I'm not doing anything to anybody that's putting them in a tight spot or inconveniencing any other individuals. I'm just literally doing this because I enjoy it and I have fun. So I think it's childish on your part to criticize me for doing something that I enjoy that has no effect on you whatsoever. Like I think that's
No,
truly
100%.
childish. So, I mean,
I think I so this is certainly I say this by I'm certainly not proud of this. But growing up when I was especially a teenager, young adult, my early 20s, dude, I was the bully. Like I was the one who made fun of people for shit. And I got into a lot of fights and got into a lot of shouting arguments and stuff like that. And it was, and when I tell you, I think it all comes because people, when they make fun of people, it's because they're unhappy themselves. Like I say that because I know, like I've been there. And going back to the first thing we talked about how, that one special person, that spouse can really change things for you. I didn't start growing up till I was in my mid-20s, and that was when me and Scarlett were really in the thick of our relationship, and we were getting ready to get married and all that kind of stuff. And it was her presence that helped me change and grow up and evolve as a person. And I hated the man I was in, my honestly, up until I turned around 30. I feel like 30 was the time I finally started realizing that like life was just too short, and I had to um I was unhappy with who I was, and I needed to make a lot of changes. And if I could go back and change, because I just know, I know for a fact that there were people that I hurt because I made fun of them, or I said things to them or made them feel lesser than. and I regret that tremendously. And so yeah, hell yeah, like I'm doing my absolute best to make sure that my son does way better than me. And if I can connect with him through video games, and again, I don't care what you say. If you think it's childish, you think it's weird, that's fine. You know, like my kid will beat up your kid on Fortnite one day. I don't know. Whatever you want to, however you want to look at it, right? But I just, yeah, I think that, you know, just stop the negativity, stop being an asshole, stop, you know, making comments on people's posts when they're talking about the things that they love to do. And you know, who cares if we're in our, you know, late mid to late 30s and we love playing video games, man. It makes us happy. And you know, going back to the original point of this conversation, I truly believe this. Like it is so important for you to take time for yourself. And
Yeah.
as a provider, when is it okay to, when you've taken care of everyone else? Like don't do it in lieu of. Don't ignore your responsibilities. Don't ignore your family. But once you've handled that stuff, man, it you know, it's a reward. It's a treat. It's a indulgence in your life as a dad, as a husband, that is much needed, and that's okay. It really is. That's okay. And if all you can get is mobile gaming in between, you know, shifts at work or things like that, doesn't matter, man. Just delve into it, enjoy it. You know, like there's so much there. And I would just encourage you, don't think less of yourself just because you're trying to fill your own cup. You know.
Yeah, ultimately, like at the end of the day, like if there's anything that I want people to get from this conversation that we just had is, if you feel like you are in a situation where you can't express the things that bring you joy, then you probably need to get out of that situation, whether it's a
Yeah.
relationship, whether it's a type of friend circle that you have. Um, Listen, don't be afraid to cut negativity out of your life. I think a lot of the times people just put up with things, and we're kind of programmed in a way to just like kind of keep your head down and move, or like keep your chin down and just do what you got to do. And like, I guess in certain extents that's okay, but like if it's really affecting your personal vibe or how you feel about yourself, you probably don't need, it's probably not beneficial to you, right? So I definitely would encourage people to like go out there and find the things that you're passionate about. Like if you're passionate about gaming, great. If you're passionate about skipping rocks across a lake, that's awesome too. Like find something that speaks to you, hold on to it, find something that is for you and for you only. And then as it grows, like you mentioned with your son and me with my kids, you can share it with people, because that's ultimately what any gamer wants, is a sense of community, right?
Hmm.
You know, it's, I don't have like the friends that I have today, I met through gaming, and not video gaming, card gaming. Like my best friend Enrique, I met him playing a card game. Um, I met you through Magic, right? So I met Dave through Magic. All my buddies, Hernan, Kevin, I met all of them through card games. And then some of my best friends I met through just people because we played games and we just so happened to live in the same area, right? So you never know like what it could lead to. But a sense of community, especially in our age, is important. You know, I live in Pennsylvania. I don't really have friends out here. My friends I communicate with online, whether it's in a group chat or whether it's this type of conversation or whether it's spell table where we play Magic. That's my therapy, really. That is what gaming is for me. It's that therapy. It's that check in on my mental health. And if there's anybody out there who feels like they don't have a safe space, or who feels like they're being judged or not accepted for who they are, listen, just take a step back and really analyze that situation and ask yourself if it's what you really need. And if you can't find people, like-minded people, just come here, you know, interact in the comment
Hmm.
section, you know, message me or Drew, or we're out there, you know, like we're not impossible to find. And if this needs to be a safe space for you, it can be, you know. I believe in that wholeheartedly. I think that communication is key. I think that getting things, out off of your chest instead of, burying them down to the point where you can't keep them in anymore and you just explode. I don't think that's healthy. And I think that that might have been what we were taught to do earlier in our lives, but I don't think it's beneficial to anybody right now just to keep things bottled up. I think communication is very important. And I mean communication in many different ways. I don't necessarily mean them in having a conversation with somebody. Communication could just simply be you finding that thing that you like and just communicating those negative emotions out of your body because you're digesting something positive. That could be playing a game, that could be reading a book, that could be drawing a picture, making a painting, making art with photography or music, whatever it is that you find joy in. That's the communication that I'm talking about, is finding something that is so overwhelmingly positive that it just sucks all of the negative energy out of your body. And you know what? I think at the end of the day, if everybody can find something that means that to them, I think we'd all be better off. So with that being said, we're just going to kind of wrap it up here. I want to thank the BatmanDrew again for coming on this podcast and having this conversation and opening up and being a little bit more vulnerable, because it is okay for two dudes to be vulnerable. And basically just that's kind of like it. I mean, whether it's gaming or any type of other hobby that you partake in, don't be afraid to dive in with both feet. Really consume yourself, because you'd be surprised how many beautiful things will come out of that. I've met a lot of special people through gaming, through card gaming, through just kind of being involved with those specific communities. And I wouldn't change it. I mean, I really wouldn't. But if it's not gaming for you, find the thing that it is for you. It doesn't have to be gaming. This is essentially a gaming channel, but it doesn't need to be that for you. And it's okay if it's not. That's what I'm trying to say, is everybody has their own quirks. Everybody has their own individualities. It is okay for you to express those individualities and pay attention to them, because at the end of the day, that's what's important, right? So, Drew, thanks again. Any closing statements you want to make before we get on out of here?
No, go out and play a video game. Go enjoy yourself. It is totally okay. But more importantly, drop in the comments. Let us know what we're playing. I'm about to finish Final Fantasy 16. I need some suggestions on what to play next.
Yeah, that's actually a really good idea. If anybody's watching this in the comment section below, put a game that really speaks to you, or that has spoken to you, or that has helped you get through a couple of things in the past. I can't gush enough about Clair Obscur Expedition 33. That game is very special to me. Even though it is a newer game, just the moment of time that I played it and the impact that it had on me at that time is very special to me. But yeah, I'd like to see, just curious what everybody's playing, or what their comfort game is. It could be something new, it could be something old, it could be something as simple as a Pokemon game. That's the beauty of gaming, right? Is there's so many different genres, there's so many different titles out there. But I guarantee you, even if you aren't a gamer, I think there's a game out there for everyone, right? I think there is something out there for every single person, even though that person might not be averse to gaming. I think if you look hard enough, you can truly find something that will bring you joy, and then maybe give you that aha moment, and you'll say to yourself, now I get it. I get why these guys play these games and why they enjoy them. But we're going to get on out of here. Thank you again, Drew. For those of you watching, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe. I really do appreciate the support. And until we meet again, I am Dadman.